Hello, everybody. This is Mrs. Wade, and I am going to make a little video for you today explaining how to do quadratic word problems. So this notes organizer is on the live agenda, so please make sure you print it. It helps a little bit, but you don't have to. You can just write stuff down. So I have a ball that I throw, and this is the equation that models it, the function, and we want to find the maximum height. So most of these word problems all are talking about either a maximum height or when it hits the ground, which is the bottom part here. So it's a lot of the same steps every single time. So let's talk about what the strategy is. So for most of these word problems, the strategy is to use the quadratic function to find the vertex. If you find the vertex, then usually, depending on the problem, it's going to be a max. Sometimes it can be the min, just depends on what the quadratic function is modeling. Now, to find the vertex, you've learned a few things last week, but the most useful in this case is x equals negative b over 2a. If you do that, then you find the x coordinate, and then you can plug that in to find the y coordinate. And the x coordinate in most of these cases is the time. But in all cases, it's the independent variable. And then the y coordinate typically is the actual max or min value. The x is when that happens, and it is the dependent variable. Okay? So that's the basic strategy of how you're approaching these problems. So let's do it. So I gave you a quadratic function, and I want to know what is the maximum height. So the goal here is to find the vertex. So we know A is negative 16, B is 40, and C is 5 because it's in standard form. So I'm going to use x equals negative b over 2a to find the x coordinate. So I'm going to plug in all my stuff. So negative b over 2a. So when you use your calculator to do that, you get approximately 1.25. Okay? And now once we have the x coordinate, we're going to plug our x into the equation, the original one, to find y. And remember, x in this case is the time, and y is the height. So I have negative 16 t squared, but instead of t, I'm going to put my x. So I'm going to take that x value that I solved for and substitute it into my equation. Okay? So when I do that, do all the math, I get 30. Remember, you want to do the exponent first. So 1.25 squared times a negative 16, and then plus this product, and then plus 5. Okay? So what does this all mean? It means the vertex is 1.25 comma 30. So this is the time, and this is the max height. And because it's a word problem, it's nice to answer with a sentence. So I would say the max height is 30 feet at 1.25 seconds. Okay? So that's the first part. The second part is when does it hit the ground? Okay? When does it hit the ground? So think about it. So you're throwing this ball. When it hits the ground, it's right there, right? That is your x-intercept. So you basically want to solve for the x-intercept. How do you find an x-intercept? You make y equal to 0. And y in this case is the height. So obviously if it's on the ground, it doesn't have any height. So hopefully that makes sense to you. So I'm going to take my equation, my quadratic function, and I'm going to set it equal to 0. Now to be able to solve this, you want to try to factor first, if possible. And if not, then you're going to use quadratic formula. Yes, you could use completing the square, but why would you do that to yourself? So in this case, I can't factor it. Sometimes it's easy to do with GCF, but in this case, it's not. So negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Nice touch to have a calculator. So then you go ahead and you figure that out in your calculator. So I have 40 squared, which is negative 40 plus or minus 1,600. And then 4 times 16 times 5 is 320, and that's a positive. And negative 32 there. So you go ahead and do all that math. Now, you're going to have 2 answers here, but one of them is not going to be possible because it's going to give you the other matching x-intercept, which is most likely going to be over here where x is a negative number, and you don't really want that. So 2 answers, although only one of them makes sense. So negative 40 plus the square root divided by negative 32. So one of your answers is negative 0.119. That's the one that doesn't really make any sense. And then when you do the other one, so negative 40 minus my square root divided by negative 32, and that's going to give me 2.619. So that answer makes more sense. So I would say it hits the ground at 2.62 seconds. And it's okay to round. So that's the first word problem. I'm going to make another video for the second word problem. So take a moment, make sure you understand that, and then get ready to do the next problem.